Uh, this whole topic today is really interesting to me as I uh, geek out about anything that has to do with internal, external ecologies, the way the mind and nature interacts with the larger world, uh, including animals and the greater living world in general, and of course each other. So I can't wait to hear what you have to share today, and you can take it away, Cher.
Okay, great. Yeah, let me get my stuff up here. Um, Thank you, Dawn. Hi, everyone. I'm Cher Griffin. So, from labels to landscapes is cognitive ecology and autoethnography as cultural praxis. Before anything else, I want to honor the room I'm entering, not just the physical or digital space, but the epistemic space, the field of what counts as knowledge here, the tone of what gets to be true. This talk comes from within autistic culture, a plural, contradictory, recursive field where autistic minds are allowed to be complex, embodied, political, messy, historical, angry, funny, scholarly, nonlinear, and alive without being translated into the clinical dialect of symptoms, traits, or deficits. And I want to say this plainly. I'm not arriving here as a clean, stable narrator. I am arriving as someone who built a model because my life became unlivable. Not in theory, in my body. I built what I'm calling the cognitive ecology model because I needed a map, because I was drowning, because the systems around me, medical, educational, professional, could name every deficit they thought I had, but not a single ecology I was living inside. So this talk isn't a lecture in the conventional sense. I won't have bullet points, behavior charts, or a three-step plan to increase neurotypical tolerance capacity. What I'm offering instead is a story, but not story as ornament. In disability culture, MAD studies, trauma epistemology, and autistic lineage, story isn't a soft form of data. It is an epistemology, a method, a counter discourse, a way to rupture the normate template and rewrite the narrative terms under which autistic lives become legible. So my story is not supplemental to theory. My story is the theory. And more precisely, it's the ground the theory grew from, like a stubborn plant finding its way through concrete. What you'll hear today is narrative, yes, but it's also autoethnography as a mode of co-regulation, not confession. Discourse analysis shaped by lived asymmetry, crypt storytelling that holds contradiction without collapse, trauma patterning as a form of insight, and a refusal of capture, the kind that freezes us in diagnostic time just long enough to capture meaning from our undoing. I'm saying this up front because when autistic people tell stories, academic rooms sometimes hear personal anecdote. But I'm not here to decorate theory with autobiography. I'm here to show how theory emerged through a body, through masking, rupture, misfit, collapse, pattern recognition, and a kind of cognitive cartography that only became possible when everything I thought I knew about myself fell apart. And I want to confess something early. I didn't build this model from a position of brilliance. I built it from a position of what looked like brokenness from the outside. CEM didn't begin as a model, it began as a lifeline. It began in the gap between what the world demanded of me and what my nervous system could no longer endure, which is also why autistic culture and the field that sometimes names it Cultural Autism Studies matters. Autism is not just biology. It is a cultural location, a narrative injunction, a meaning-making site shaped by history, normativity, violence, lineage, and power, which means autistic knowledge, especially the kind born in the margins, has always been theory, always been resistance, always been world building. So, what I'm offering today is not a polished keynote. There will be spirals, there will be theory, there will be autistic tangents that turn out to not be tangents at all, but structural beams. There may be shaking hands, there may be humor that arrives 6 beats late, there may be emotions that don't wait until the designated section of the talk. All of this belongs. All of this is part of the methodology. because I'm not trying to perform a stable self for you. I'm inviting you into the ecology that made the model possible. So let's begin at the only place honest theory begins, not with answers, but with the life that demanded them. The before. Misfit masking and the cultural construction of autistic life. I didn't grow up knowing I was autistic. I grew up knowing I was wrong. Too much, too intense, too sensitive, too literal, too idealistic, too direct, too observant, too emotional, too principled, too easily overwhelmed, too easily enchanted. I was a child out of step with the choreography, a nervous system moving to a rhythm no one else seemed to hear. And here's what autistic culture helps us name. Those labels, too much, too sensitive, too intense, they're not descriptions of an inner essence. They are cultural measurements. Measurements shaped by a world that equates regulation with worthiness, conformity with maturity, and opacity with professionalism. I learned early that my existence was something to be managed. I learned this when adults told me I thought too hard, when teachers said I asked too many questions, when other kids asked why I sorry, couldn't just be normal for 5 minutes. When my sensory overwhelm was reframed as dramatics, when my solitude was reframed as arrogance, when my distress was reframed as manipulation, and when my clarity was reframed as aggression. These are not isolated incidents. They are part of a structure of legibility politics, the demand that marginalized bodies adapt themselves into readability before they can be treated as real. I wasn't undiagnosed. I was misread. The mask before I knew what a mask was. I masked before I knew the word. My earliest social memories are not memories of participation. They are memories of calibration, watching, mapping, predicting. I observed other children the way an anthropologist studies a culture they were never quite invited into. And I want to pause here. Autistic observation is not passive. It is deep ethnographic immersion. It is pattern recognition raised to the level of survival craft. By age 8, I could read a room with terrifying accuracy, alliances, tensions, microaggressions beneath the surface. But ask me to read a joke directed at me, ask me to intuit the hierarchy of cool, ask me to enter a conversation without running a full predictive simulation. No. My body froze where it should have flowed. It raced where it should have rested. I was a nervous system negotiating incompatible demands on loop. Normative culture rewards intensity only when it's entertaining, productive, or profitable. Intensity without utility gets pathologized. The professionalization of disassociation. By adolescence, masking became competency. Teachers praised my self-control, adults praised my maturity. Peers admired my intellect from a distance, unsure what was off, but feeling it anyways. What they called composure was fawn response professionalism, a form of autistic disassociation laundered into acceptability. Institutions don't just shape behavior, they shape atmosphere. And in certain atmospheres, some bodies learn to shrink to avoid rupture. My self-control was compensatory. My excellence was extraction. My resilience was collapse, wearing a blazer. The world rewarded the parts of me that mimicked its values and ignored the parts that were screaming. The chasm inside the performance. My 20s were a masterclass in appearing fine. I worked in environments that loved my brilliance and resented my boundaries. Where direct communication, a hallmark of autistic cultures, was recoded as hostility. Where productivity was rewarded and support was reframed as weakness. Where insight was praised, but emotional transparency was punished. This is not anecdotal, it is structural. Autistic directness enters a neurotypical affective economy where clarity can feel like threat and ambiguity masquerades as civility. Every autistic person in the workforce learns some version of this. Your gifts are assets until they reveal the conditions that produce them. Then they become liabilities. Burnout as cultural injury. I burned out 5 times. Not the kind of burnout that cured by a long weekend, burnout that lives in your bones, burnout that steals your language, burnout that erodes your working memory, burnout that takes your ability to pretend. The kind of attrition that isn't dramatic enough to be named collapse until it is. My fifth burnout was not burnout. It was ecological failure. A nervous system asked to perform incompatible tasks for too long. I couldn't speak without crying. I couldn't hold a thought in sequence. I couldn't make it through the fluorescent gauntlet of a grocery store aisle. This is the moment systems code as fragility, when the body becomes more honest than the story. And this is when I received an autism diagnosis. Diagnosis as cultural translation. Diagnosis didn't feel like clarity. It felt like an obituary written in a language I didn't speak. Yes, you were drowning. Here's the Latin word for water. Diagnosis is not neutral. It is a translation shaped by psychiatry, whiteness, gender, capitalism, disciplinary history. And like all translation, something is lost. I was not relieved. I was grieving. Grieving the years I thought I was difficult when I was divergent. Grieving the years I thought I was fragile when I was misfit. Grieving the years I thought I was failing when I was ecologically mismatched. Diagnosis didn't fix anything, but it cracked something open. And in that crack, in that rupture, in that unbearable honesty, something else began. Not certainty, not pride, a refusal. A refusal toward the self as ecology a reorientation toward the self as ecology rather than malfunction. This is where cognitive ecology begins. Not in clarity, in collapse. Not in theory, in survival. Not in diagnostic language, but in the moment when diagnostic language fails to hold the life it describes. The making of the model, from collapse to cartography. When everything collapsed, I didn't set out to build a model. I set out to understand why a life that looked functional on paper had become unlivable in practice. I began with bewilderment, with days when language felt like lifting furniture, with a nervous system so overclocked that even silence made noise, with mornings where the simplest decision felt like a moral crisis. And in that collapse, I did the only thing I've always known how to do. I tracked the patterns. Not academically, not for publication, not to prove anything, but because my mind has always been a cartographer. I map, I notice, I follow spirals until they reveal structural. Autistic perception often exceeds normative epistemologies, not because it's superior, but because it's positioned differently. We notice what dominant systems are structured not to see. So I became my own researcher, my own archivist, my own field site. I tracked shutdowns, spirals, the erosion of resilience, insight that arrived at 2 a.m., how cognition pulsed with weather, how fluorescent light rearranged my neurons, how trauma braided itself into attention, how hyperfocus and collapse were not opposites but oscillations. At the time, I thought I was surviving. Now I understood this was method. This was autistic scholarship emerging under duress. Cognition as ecology, not machinery. As I mapped myself, a pattern became undeniable. Nothing was random. Every shutdown, every burnout, every so-called executive dysfunction, all of it correlated to context. When I changed the environment, sensory load, pacing, relational clarity, power dynamics, my capacity changed. Not slightly, dramatically. I could write for 8 hours if I didn't have to speak for 15 minutes. I could think clearly if I wasn't performing eye contact. I could sustain complexity if I wasn't modulating my face in real time. This wasn't a broken brain. It was an ecological mismatch. Cognition was not happening inside my skull alone. It was happening between my nervous system and the world. And once I saw that, everything reorganized. Autistic distress is not internal disorder. It is a patterned response to environment. That insight, simple, radical, was the seed of cognitive ecology. The 5 domains, what was actually happening. The first shapes that emerged were not traits, they were terrains, 5 of them. Not categories, not deficits, terrains. Sensory terrain, what enters the system. Light, sound, movement, texture, temperature, not background, primary input. 2, the cognitive terrain, how processing unfolds. Spiral, pattern recognition, time loops, hyperfocus, layered logic, not dysfunction, different architecture. Emotional terrain, how affect moves. Flood, delay, intensity, shutdown, not dysregulation, signal. 4, relational terrain, how nervous systems meet. Double empathy, misattunement, masking fatigue, not social deficit, cultural mismatch. 5, environmental fit, whether the world is survivable. Architecture, time pressure, capitalism, whiteness, hierarchy, the terrain diagnostics rarely name, but the one that defines suffering. These domains didn't describe who I was, they described what was happening. But something deeper was still needed because the same domain behaved differently in different contexts. That's when the layers appeared. The 6 layers, where and why. Beyond domains, I began to see strata, not content, context. 6 layers that shape how any moment unfolds. Interpersonal, what's happening inside the skin. Interpersonal, how nervous systems negotiate. Environmental, physical and temporal conditions. Cultural, the story the world tells about bodies like mine. Structural, the systems that enforce that story. Historical and ancestral, what the body carries across generations. This is where intersectionality stops being optional because no autistic life moves through these layers the same way. A white autistic person does not encounter cultural and structural layers the same way a Black autistic person does. A poor autistic person navigates environmental fit differently than someone resourced. Gender, race, class, lineage, these are not add-ons, they are ecological conditions. So CEM became not a theory of autism, but a map of experience situated in power. Domains tell us what is happening. Layers tell us where and why. Intersectionality tells us for whom, under what conditions, and at what cost. Participatory emergence, the Substack shift. At some point, the model wanted witnesses. So I posted early spirals publicly, not a formal study, a living experiment, and people wrote back. And they didn't just affirm the model, they expanded it. They said, "This explains my life. I thought I was broken. I read this aloud and cried." The model began changing in response to those reflections. It became participatory, emergent, recursive, not research on autistic people, research with and as autistic people, theory shaped by lived resonance. That is when I realized CEM wasn't mine, it was ours. Exclusion feedback praxis. In tracking my own loops, I listened to and listening to others, a pattern surfaced. Not just exclusion, recursion. You are excluded, you adapt, the adaptation becomes identity, the identity is misread, the misreading produces new exclusion. That loop became what I called exclusion feedback praxis. Not pathology, pattern survival, and it breaks not through compliance, but through co-regulation, through another nervous system saying, "This is adaptation, not malfunction." That witnessing changes the loop. That is praxis. Meaning made together inside rupture. The sovereignty charter. When the model began to resonate publicly, I felt 2 things at once: recognition and risk, because we know what happens to frameworks that resonate. They get extracted, simplified, rebranded, folded into corporate trainings, detached from the communities that birthed them. So I wrote what I called the Sovereignty Charter, not as a brand strategy, as a boundary. The charter states CEM is open source in spirit, but not extractive. It is communal, not proprietary. It is adaptable, but not distortable. It belongs first to the autistic communities whose lived realities made it possible. Any use of it beyond that remains accountable to those communities. This wasn't about control, it was about stewardship. Autistic knowledge has often been mined, reframed, and redistributed without consent. The charter exists to interrupt that pattern, not to close the door, but to ensure that if the door opens, it does so ethically. Living the model. After collapse, after diagnosis, after the architecture emerged, I stopped trying to align myself to systems, and I began aligning myself to ecology. That shift was immediate. When I aligned my nervous system, capacity expanded. When I aligned with institutional pacing, collapse followed. We are taught not to trust this pattern. We are taught push through, mask better, regulate faster, need less. But what I discovered was this. The less I abandoned myself, the more coherent I became. I began designing my days around sensory coherence, cognitive pacing, relational clarity, silence without apology, stopping before collapse, nonlinear knowing without shame. This is not self-care as trend. It is ecological design. It is survival restructuring. It is political because systems reward compliance, not coherence, which leaves many autistic adults inside a forced choice economy. Health or income, truth or employment, authenticity or legibility. Living CEM does not erase that tension. It makes it visible. It shifts blame back to structure. And it asks a different question. What would it mean to design around fit instead of forcing performance? The institutional refusal. After building CEM, publishing, teaching, mapping, I still did not qualify for disability services. Why? Because I was too articulate, too self-aware, too educated, too coherent in describing my own suffering. In other words, too legible in the wrong ways. This is legibility politics. Some forms of disability are recognized because they match institutional expectation. Others are denied because they complicate it. Articulation is mistaken for stability. Theory is mistaken for health. Capacity in one domain erases need in another. Knowing the map does not change the terrain. It only allows you to navigate it more consciously. CEM exists to name that mismatch, not to fix it, but to expose it. The Compassion Collective. Out of the model emerged a space, not a service, a container. The Compassion Collective became a place where autistic people could unmask without punishment, spiral without shame, theorize without translation, and exist without performance. In that space, something became undeniable. Autistic regulation is relational. Autistic cognition unfolds in trust. Thriving requires witness, not measurement. CEM stopped being just a model. It became a mirror, and living it became an act of refusal. A refusal to collapse for comfort, refusal to betray the body for legibility, refusal to treat productivity as proof of worth. CEM is not self-help. It is cognitive sovereignty. Autistic life as mirror method map. This is not an ending. It is an opening because the story is not just mine. It is a pattern. Autistic life reveals the fragility of institutional norms, the violence of compliance culture, the friction of neutrality in diagnostics, the invisible labor of translation we are constantly asked to perform. CEM does not explain autism. It reframes the question. The question is not what is wrong with autistic people. The question is, What kind of world fails us so consistently, and what would it take to build another? When I stopped asking how to survive in a world that hurt me and started asking how to design around ecological fit, everything changed. Not externally, but internally. CEM did not save me. It allowed me to stop betraying myself. The ecosystem. This work does not live only in this talk. The book holds the longer arc, the full architecture, the political lineage, the deeper spiral of how this model came into being. The Substack is where the work continues in real time, publicly, relationally, emergently. It's where the model evolves through dialogue. My website is the broader ecosystem. Workshops, writing, the Compassion Collective, spaces where this theory becomes lived practice. If what we explored today resonates, there are multiple doorways. You don't have to enter them all. You can take one that fits your ecology. And before I close, I would like to read you the introduction from my book, Cognitive Ecology, Mapping Your Mind for Self-Understanding. Mapping my mind and finding my way home. 6 years ago, I began an unexpected journey. I didn't call it cognitive ecology back then. I didn't have the language for what I was doing. I only knew that the systems around me, mental health, education, workplaces, and even some community spaces, couldn't see or hold the way my mind worked. I wasn't looking for a new theory. I was looking for a way to survive, an organic, relational way to understand myself, something more like an ecology than a diagnosis. So I started mapping. I mapped my thoughts, my patterns, my shutdowns and spirals. I traced the invisible lines between what triggered me and what nourished me. I tracked the rhythms of my energy, the sensations in my body, the moments of rupture and the ones of repair. I started noticing how the world shaped my mind and how my mind responded, protected, and adapted. And I didn't do it with textbooks or clinical tools. I did it by listening, by paying attention, being radically honest with myself. And over time, I realized I wasn't alone. Others were doing this too, in their journals, their voice notes, their conversations late at night. Other neurodivergent people, trauma survivors, artists, empaths, system-sensitive folks were all trying to piece together a truth the system had missed. That we are not broken minds. We are symbolic ecologies, sensitive, complex, relational systems shaped by everything we've survived and everything we're still becoming. Some of us spiral, some of us dissociate, some of us hold paradox in our bones. Some of us speak in metaphor because literal language cannot hold what we know. And all of us are seeking maps that don't erase us. This book is one of those maps. What this book is and isn't. This isn't a manual. It is not a diagnosis in disguise. I'm not going to give you 10 steps to fix yourself. This is a mirror, a spiral, a relational guide to symbolic coherence. It's a framework built from lived experience, collective wisdom, deep introspection, and the honest chaos of healing in a world that doesn't always make space for difference. It's part philosophy, part memoir, part map. Some of what you'll read here may feel familiar, even if you've never had language for it before. Other parts may feel new, even strange, and that's okay. Strange is sometimes the doorway to true. Who is it for? Cognitive ecology is for those of us who have been labeled too sensitive, too intense, too distracted, too complicated. It's for the ones who've always felt out of sync, too much for some, not enough for others. It's for anyone who has tried to make sense of their own mind in systems that were never built to understand symbolic variation as natural, meaningful, and necessary. You're not alone in the spiral. You're not a problem to be solved. You are a being to be understood. Let this be your invitation to begin. This is not a linear path. You do not have to understand it all at once. The map will loop, it will return, it will spiral deeper each time, but know this map begins here. You don't have to walk it alone. This book is part of a growing ecosystem of people reclaiming their truth together. You belong in that ecology. You've always belonged. And before we close, I want to turn this back to you, to your breath, to your pacing, to your edge. Whatever you are holding right now, let this be enough. Your cognition makes sense. Your spirals make sense. Your silence makes sense. Your refusal makes sense. You do not need to be tidy to be true. You do not need, sorry, to be fluent to be real. And you do not need to be regulated to belong. CEM is not a template. It's a mirror. And the mirror is not asking you to change, only to see. So instead of rushing to productivity, I want to invite a shared breath. You're welcome to ask questions. You're welcome to reflect. You're welcome to sit quietly, camera on or off, speech or silence, participation or pause, whatever your ecology requires. You don't need to perform coherence. You just need to be here. This moment is enough. Thank you for witnessing, for spiraling, for letting autistic life be theory and autistic theory be life. I'm here and I'm listening.
Share. I don't even know what to say. I'm just so glad I lived to see this moment for all of us.
You're gonna make me cry. Don't do that.
It's amazing.
So many times I thought I was gonna leave this dense plane without seeing this, and I was just working on a foreword for Angela Kingdon's new book, and we were talking about how this doesn't belong to anyone, how our community is building what comes next from the ground up without these cruel hierarchies, cruelty as foundational for its own sake. And I'm just so proud to be part of this. Um, Obviously, there's going to be a lot of people who want to. Sorry, I'm not using neuronormative language very well.
Yeah.
Thank you. Uh, from the chat, um, says, how many of us are bothered with the term diagnosis? Was the concept of diagnosis harmful to share? I personally refuse diagnosis and instead prefer identity or identification because it's not a declaration of what's wrong with me, but an understanding of my essence. We agree here.
Yeah. I can't I have nothing to add. Yeah. I just
Uh, Go ahead.
I just something came up for me. I I get nervous when I speak to big groups of people. Um and so I put my script in front of the screen so I can't see anybody. And um the edges were still kind of showing and I could see the hearts coming up as I was speaking, and I just wanted to say that that made me feel really good, and it really helped me to get through it. Thank you.
I appreciate your emotionality. This is something, again, so foundational to what comes next. I have always done it. I have always cried and gotten angry or generated that weaving energy in any group I was in, which really fell flat in academia. But then people would come to me afterwards and say, oh my God, we need that. We need that so much. And we really do. And I so appreciate how much emotional depth you brought to this, because it really does touch us on this primal foundational cultural level that is different. We generate, share, anticipate, holographically cooperate in emotion in a way that neuronormative culture will probably never understand. So that was very much welcome.
Yeah. A little part of my story that I didn't add in, uh, a little specificity. I was working for a government organization when I discovered I was autistic. And so I don't know if I need to say anything else. I think that just covers what was going on, right? I had the earlier parts of my life, I worked in the hospitality industry. And I think that neurodivergent people are pretty well like accounted for in restaurants and hospitality. And so I never had that experience of being in such a strictly hierarchical environment. And it was that is what sent me into that final burnout. Was it was confusing um and harmful, violent in a lot of ways, not just to me, but to the people that I was working with, and every single day I could feel it. I could feel the energies that people were experiencing in those spaces, and it really tore me apart. And it took 2 years to recover from that burnout. So um, I knew that that's not an individual fragility problem. That's a structural issue right there.
Do you find that it forms a like an empathic feedback loop?
Yeah, it's interesting for me personally, like because the self-understanding piece came for me so late in life, like I have like kind of this comparison of like how I adapted to those dynamics or avoided, right? Like I think unconsciously um avoiding certain types of environments was just kind of natural for me and certain types of people. Um, but then when I was contained in that space every single day with all of that energy, I couldn't I couldn't create the boundaries. It was too porous and and then it felt as if it was still at that time my failure, you know, that I wasn't strong enough, that I wasn't smart enough relationally, you know, to understand what was going on. But it's not meant to be understood. That's the thing. It's not. It makes no sense.
I don't know if you're used to using Zoom, if people raise their hands or wave.
Oh, yeah.
If
Yeah. I don't know who was first. I'm just gonna go with since she's the first one on my screen, if that's okay.
It is. Wait, we're gonna go fully authentic here. You're gonna see me Windblown, no makeup. Oh, if I can get my thing to come back. Desperate need of a haircut in my messy room. Hi, it is so nice to, like, see you. I just wanted to say, I mean, this is huge for me, right? Because this is the first time I'm turning on my camera in one of these. But I wanted to say thank you. One, for pointing me to this group. Two, for sharing your knowledge. Because a lot of what you say resonates with me and the journey that I'm on, and my instinct of that there should be so much joy and there needs to be belonging, and there is no normal. Like, my heart is just bursting. I am so proud of you, and the work that you've done, and what you have managed, and it's inspiring because stumbling across you on Threads is what gave me the push to decide that my journey to discovering what belongingness means from an autistic perspective, and how do I find that as a late discovered autistic person, because this is my identity, and so much of what happens within the community just doesn't resonate with me, and I don't see joy, and I want there to be joy. And so because of you, I'm on this journey. The belongingness effect, is born and will be developed, and the books will be written because of you. And I'm just so grateful and so darn proud of you. So darn proud of you. So I needed you to know that, because I know there's so much opposition that you run into on Threads. And so I just wanted to face tell you that what you're doing is making a difference, and it's been a huge impact in my life. And I've not even read your book yet, so just thank you, and keep doing it, keep working, okay? Don't give up.
I'm so happy to like see your face too. Like it's just I connect with people in weird places. Like, that song, I got friends in yeah, that's me. I just got them everywhere. So I love people. I love humans, and uh, it's that you said you want more of that autistic joy. We deserve joy. Like that's where it's like we deserve that as any human on this planet. Not solely because we're autistic, but if you look at the field that we have that has been built for us, that's the part that gets me is like, wait a second, we didn't build this. Like, we could do it better. Like, I mean, that's not a supremacy or superiority claim. I think we could do it a little better.
We could do a lot of things a lot better. I mean, so yeah. So thank you.
Oh, I
Hi, yes, thank you. Ditto to everything everyone has said. I got goosebumps, I cried, I felt seen and heard and recognized. I saw myself in your journey. I'm also late diagnosed in my mid 50s. And I wasn't, it was a self diagnosis after having had burnouts throughout my life and being at a burnout point where nothing was helping, and just a mad Google search out of for answers, anything led me to autistic burnout, and for some reason I clicked on it. And I was like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, that's me, that's me, that's me. And, but back to you and your amazing presentation. I am so overwhelmed with love and admiration and and gratitude for it. And I just want to mention two things. One, because I have auditory processing issues, I need slowness to take it all in. So I just went ahead and bought your book already.
Oh, thank you.
Because at a certain point, I was so full of all the beauty that your speaking was, all the beautiful things you said, that I couldn't process anymore. So I'm gonna need to read it because auditorily I couldn't process anymore, especially as a second language. It's even harder.
That's understandable.
Thanks. But I loved one particular thing you said way in the beginning, which is what also made me like unable to follow the rest properly on top of the auditory processing issues, was when you said too easily enchanted. I was like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, I am seen. It was like, it was like, yes, everything, too much of everything, too everything. I remember when I first learned my diagnosis at work, for Autism Awareness Month, out of the blue, with no prompting, whatever, I just decided to write a 4-page thing about autism, and the title of the piece was "To This and To That." And I distributed it to the entire company, and unprompted. Thankfully, it's a relatively safe space, and I got lots of beautiful input. But anyway, again, to this, to that, when you said too easily enchanted, I was like, oh my god, yes, that explains me so much. And I was so happy for the wording specifically. Like, once I'm enchanted, that's it. I'm so overflowing with the joy of being enchanted that I cannot think of anything else. I cannot follow any other words. I cannot follow a conversation, a presentation. I'm like, yeah, I'm overflowing. I'm bursting out of my skin. So I just thought the beauty of of that phrasing just really hit me. Thank you for this amazing talk.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for buying my book. That's so exciting. And I'm gonna get it on Kindle too. I'm figuring this all out. I don't know what the heck I'm doing. To tell you the truth. I am like, I am just piecing things together as I go. I had a beautiful, wonderful, liberatory independent publisher, Lost Raven Studios. I should mention them. If anybody's looking to publish something for the first time, they were wonderful to work with, neurodivergent and just amazing human being. Um, so,
Can
and
you
I can.
repeat that?
Lost Raven Studios. And
Okay.
I can send a follow up with with links or if that's something that people want for the stuff that
Yeah,
I've talked about. Yeah.
absolutely.
I'll send it to you, Dawn, and then if anybody I don't know how you do your distribution stuff. I don't want to
Yeah,
cross.
I'll take care of it.
Cool. Wonderful. Yeah. Yeah, Enchanted. And that's the one I feel like we get the most I feel like I do. Like, I get the most, like, I don't know if it's like the right word is like negativity, but kind of like dismissal, maybe. Um, like there at some point in adulthood, you're supposed to stop liking like Alice in Wonderland. Like, who said that? Who? Like, no. I'm still going down the rabbit hole. Like that's what we do. And I mean, and plus, like there's so many traits that we have that I think lend to that in a lot of ways that, some of us do, some of us don't. It just, we're not homogenous, but like, and why not play to those strengths? I felt like for a big part of my life, like, the whole legibility stuff, like it was like, I had to hide all the things that I find actually the most fascinating about myself. And that's not fun. I'm not doing that ever again.
In CASY physics, we talk a lot about how so many of us experience fluid spacetime. And so our development is neuroholographic and expansive rather than linear. So we're not a baby and then we eventually get to old age. Like we're born very old and then we stay babies through our whole lives. All these
Mhm.
different beautiful layers. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I talk a little bit about I love the way you phrase that. I've been following that work. Like whenever you talk about the holographic stuff, I'm like, oh, like because I'm like I'm moving through it, but I haven't I don't know. So, but in the book I talk a lot about like temporality and how that can be different for autistic people, like really different. And with development, right, too, like, the way we understand time um, and our own personal experiences, when we were 20 compared to when we're 40, it's a whole different thing. It's like multidimensional different, like I don't know if I can put it into words, but, you know. But yeah, I'm gonna try and get through some of these comments, just um see if anybody had anything.
I didn't see any that said read out loud, but
Okay.
sometimes people forget to put that on there. If anybody does have something that they want to come through
Yeah.
via chat, we're still here for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm totally open to any. I'm a pretty open book, so anybody just has some random question about something, well, I could probably talk about it for 20 minutes. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you so much. Wonderful presentation. And I just wanted to say I really appreciate the emotionality, Dawn, where you started, and share your emotionality. As an undiagnosed autistic child, I was lectured to not show any emotion. And my father, who had a strong German influence of upbringing, emotions were always bad. So I, as a late diagnosed age 60 autistic person, am relearning my emotions. And so I appreciate your very open emotional display, your authenticity, both you and Dawn. So thank you. Wonderful presentation. I loved it.
Thanks. It's wonderful. I have a whole chapter on emotions in the book. We go in there. It's fun. Discovering this later in life. Uh, my partner has, been on the journey with me, and it's had its ups and downs. We'll say that. But one thing that rubbed off, right, like, is that I'm doing the work, and this work is really relational. Like, it does require other people um, to really um, you have to have that mirroring and that reflection. And so I feel like whether my partner really wanted to learn more about this stuff or not, he kind of just got drug along, and it's kind of been really beautiful. Like, and he's explored, we do that, like, I know you're this, and this, and but he's explored more intimately into what his mind is like. And I think if that can rub off on more neurotypical people, that would be good. Even just a little.
I've found in various kinds of relationship in my life that I find it difficult to explain that I'm having every emotion all the time. I don't have discrete emotions. I cry because the sun comes up, and I laugh because it's nighttime. Like, and none of those things are ever beginning and ending either.
Yeah.
So I can say one thing on one day and completely mean it, and then another holographic facet comes up the next day, and it's
Mhm.
not incongruous for me. It's all of a piece.
Yeah.
Did you run into any of that structurally with your partner?
Yes. We still do. We're moving through that one still. We'll get there. But there's definitely like the response of like which maybe many of us probably heard this in childhood, like, I don't know why you're not over this yet, right? Right? And because it's part of me. I'm never going to be over it, actually. Because it will pop back up again. And then we get this in our culture. We have this idea that, and I don't even like really using this word because it's so wrapped, but trauma, like, right, that it's so wrapped in this like pathology. Traumas are imprints, right? They are meanings within our systems, and so they will come back up. It's how we react to them and respond to them, is kind of the most important part, and how we respond and react depends on our ecologies, on who we have. Like, I call it my board of directors, but I have, like, people that, like, if I get this emotion, that's the person I go talk to. Or if this thing comes up, that's the person that's in my interdependent system that I can. That took time too. That took like a lot of time to figure that, and a lot of mistakes and a lot of repair that had to happen in different relationships. And so it's it's not easy work. And so I think a lot of people choose not to do it, because of that, because it's easier just to stay the same. Um, but I don't know where I was going with that. I kind of went off on a tangent.
Okay, in the chat said basically hearing that in childhood, my mom still uses it on me.
Yeah. 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 Those kind of comments happen, like, still, like even, yeah. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
I really just wanted to reflect back too, because I know that, like, at least for me, when I speak in a group, I kind of black out and I can't really like take in a response. But that was so profound. The way you articulated that was amazing. I think you're brilliant. Um, and you know, I know you from our group, and but it's still being able to explain your experience, and I know that it's been like a long, really difficult journey, and I know that it is a huge burden to have to do all of that mapping and pattern like finding and figuring things out while you are in burnout, while you are the victim of suffering, to have to do that work. And we've talked about that is huge, but I just think it's so enormous that you're able to come to this point where it can have meaning, where the suffering can have meaning. I mean, I think that is like my only wish for my own life at this point. And I think I just want you to have like a mirror back saying, like, you did it, you know, like you got it. Um, and it was probably awful and horrible, but you found something within it. You found not only meaning or purpose, but like, um, value in your own innate ability. And the fact that it resonates with others is like an added bonus. But I think even just for your own life, and I'm so proud of you, and your ability to articulate this and even synthesize it in this way, so clearly, uh, is huge. It's a huge achievement, and I just want you to know that. And
Thank you, girl.
you're part of it. You're part of it. You've been part of it for a while. I don't know. I don't know if I can like keep up. Like, like, it's so there's intellectual. My like whatever I share is like so like emotional. You have no idea.
How much you've mirrored to me over the years. Like, it's like, and I say that, like, the sovereignty charter, the compassion, like, anybody, like, this work wasn't mine. I didn't sit on a hill like a Buddha and do this by myself. It was like every single human that I've interacted with had an impact on me. And it wouldn't even exist, like, in the way it was without you. You're in there, like, I mean, you're not like literally in there.
I would get your consent before that happened.
you're in it because you're in me. And I think that's one thing like that we misunderstand in our culture. We think, and I mean, I can get all intellectual on you guys and think it's like this Cartesian split that we did between body and mind, and then we built everything off of that. And so now everybody thinks this hyper independent society. I mean, it's like I could track it, I can track the thing, but it's like, but yeah, we were wrong. We were wrong. We're, yep, no mind body split, guys. Like we consciousness is relational. It's between us. And I think when you feel it, you just feel like when I tell like certain people don't want to hear that, and maybe they have their own blockages for that. But when I say that to people who just feel it, they're just like, yeah, of course it is, you know. So it's interesting.
But it's just, I just want you to know also that it's not that your work, like on a cognitive level, is going to um, like change things, which I think it will, but it's even on a felt level, right? That the things that you're saying are transformative in a way. It really is, and I want you to know that I believe that it's going to have a ripple impact, and it doesn't even matter, because I think getting to this point as it is, where you can, within your own journey, and then to be able to package it in a way and put it out there in the world so that it has impact. I mean, I kind of feel like you did what most of us would love to do, and I just think it's huge. It's a huge achievement. I think like you made it, and I'm so proud of you. And it was very meaningful and moving, and I didn't know what to expect going into this presentation. you know, Obviously you're extremely smart, and when you share things in group, but like sometimes I feel like, oh, like, the super intellectual stuff like might go above me because I'm not in academia. And but it's not about that, right? It's about a felt and thing, and it translated, and I just want you to know that it resonated, and yeah, I'm excited for the future for you, and the impact it has on the community, and what it will mean for all of us forward. So thank you, and congratulations.
Thank you.
I'd like to say something. Um, we have become more than the sum of the parts. We are organs in a larger body. Some of us, there's this great sort of Venn diagram continuum, or like we always say, the neuro holographic experience, where some people translate emotion um, more comfortably or more articulately. It is a form of being articulate, and others of us lean toward the more intellectual. But it doesn't matter because we're part of this larger body, and our culture is reaching this critical mass. We all feel it. We throw out words, that don't have meaning, like better, but healthier, more joyful, a return to something that was lost. We're doing this together, and however any of us show up is magical to me.
That is so true. Thank you for reflecting that back. And I think that you're probably right that we all have our unique gifts and our abilities to convey or articulate in our own ways, and that it all has value, and collectively, hopefully, we can all shift the discourse, or the experience, and have it become a little bit more mainstream, right? Because that's what would eventually benefit, I think, everyone.
Yeah, that's the goal. Like just a little bit more mainstream, like just a little less tension and a little more stream. That's what I want. But I'm finding the streams, right? Like this is a stream. This is a great stream.
And I think it's, sorry, I didn't even bother raising my hand. I just jumped in there. Look at, I'm already far too comfortable. Um, um, a lot of people have been bringing up, talking about, and things that come out of the adversity and the hard times. And that's actually one of the first chapter in my first book is talking about my life of adversity. And I had a wonderful person tell me ages ago um, that I could either choose to be buried under the adversity, or I could view it as opportunities to learn and grow from, and kind of make it, part of the journey that it's up to me to figure out. Sometimes the lesson is that person's not good, this circumstance is bad, right? Avoid, avoid, avoid. But a lot of times I've grown as a person, and beauty, I think that in the trials, the adversity, those hard times that we fight through, is when we find the answers and we find the beauty that exists. And then it's our goal. I'm a firm believer that it's then our responsibility to share those journeys and those stories so that others can see the beauty that we have found. And so, anyway, yeah, I just wanted to toss that out there.
I'm excited to read your book. I read everybody's. I love to reading's kind of like my weirdo thing. Like so.
Oh no, I love physical books.
Yes.
I mean, I just even just having them around me is comforting.
just, even just
Certain, like I'll put certain books on my desk if I want a certain vibe for like what
I have a
it's just a thing. Some people like video games. Some people like, everybody has their thing. Mine is books.
I don't know if you can see, I have strewn throughout my house. I have Gothic literature, the classics, Dracula,
Oh.
Hunchback, and I pick them up and just do bibliomancy where I don't read them in order. I
Mm.
just so often are synchronistic to something I need to hear or what's going to happen or whatever. I also wanted to mention that one of the most profound beauties of culture is that it provides meaning to suffering.
Hmm.
And for so many of us here in this group, we have suffered without obvious meaning in ways that I hope that we are regaining a sense of meaning for as we pull together for sure.
Hmm. Yeah. I think about that often. Part of my story before I discovered I was autistic, I struggled with some substance use challenges. It was coping strategy, right? Like I didn't know I had sensory stuff. I didn't know that, that I was trying to be neurotypical, but needed a drink or two to get there, all the things. But it worked until it didn't. We'll just put it that way. And so when I stopped, that's where I entered a lot of healing spaces way before I knew I was autistic. I was, I was seeking belonging in different spaces, lots of different ones. And lots of different ones didn't like me. Lots of them kicked me out. And lots of them, and I mean, it makes sense now. I can look back and go, oh, because I'm autistic. Because I did that. Oh, like it's all like O's. But I think about it now, like there was a good chunk of my life where it was one bad thing after the next, one bad thing, like it was just like I never got really caught a break. And um, it was in those healing spaces in spiritual spaces that taught me that there is a point to suffering and that um, when we look at it differently, um, we can move past it differently, I guess, or move through it. I don't, past is not the right word because you don't, it becomes, you integrate it differently. And, if 7 years ago when I was at the worst of my worst, I couldn't I couldn't tell you I would be like, I kind of thought I would be not here, like 6 feet under, a couple times that almost happened. Um, so I have to look at it that way. I mean, I mean, it, it's more interesting to look at it that way. Um, like you're your own anthropologist, where you're seeing there's so many lessons too, right? Like I can go back in time, I can continue to spiral in, and I use that word in the most productive, like good way. Spiraling in my world is not bad. Um, but I can look at that and go and have like I get to have the ahas. I get to have those moments of like synchronicity, and that is really meaningful to me. It makes my life really meaningful, and I wouldn't be able to do that now had I not had things, all of those things, and the current stuff too. Like we're going through a lot, and especially here in the United States. I don't know if everybody's from the United States here, but it's not something I could have predicted when I was a child that we would be going through this. So community culture, I think, is so very, very important. That's what I learned early. That's the one thing I took away from all of those spaces. Even though I got kicked out of some of them, I still was like, I need people, just not those people.
Somebody in the chat asked me if I would define suffering for myself. And I guess my answer would be it would be the keen and painful awareness of boundaries that separate me or something near me from the greater collective.
Mm, yeah.
Injustice does that. Cruelty to animals does that. The destruction of the environment does that. These are all sufferings that affect me profoundly every day, and they're not centered in me. But I am keenly aware of those painful boundaries between me and those things I'm connected to, not being in free flow with the greater conscious universe.
Mhm.
I hope the question. I know some people process slowly and are more comfortable coming in at the very end. We're about to wind up since we're pretty much past the hour, and I just want to be sure that everybody gets a chance if they want one.
Yeah.
Well, I would say from Australia, it was amazing to hear this. I'm pretty speechless at the moment. So it just landed, everything just landed so beautifully, and it was like, yeah, the mirror. Thank you so much for your vulnerability, and this is life changing, and not only I can feel that for me, but for this world. This is important work, and just the resonance. There's just such a strong resonance and vibe sitting here within me. So thank you.
Thank you. And I'll just say, I mean, everybody's comments, I'm reading through them. I tried to get through them all. Thank you. And thank you for holding this space for me. I'm not nervous at all anymore. I just kind of want to hang out with you all. So, like, it just like I wish, this was more. I wish I had a workplace that was, more like this. And yeah.
I mean, I'm living the dream every day. I'm autistic for a living. I get to be an anthropologist for my own culture every day. And frankly, I just don't want anything to do with anything else anymore. It's kind of hard to put into words, but my life is sort of reversed. Like, I just don't want to have anything to do with it if it's
Mm.
not neuro expansive, neuro holographic, connected, moving toward a better future for everyone. Um, I just don't have hardly any patience for it. I wish we could all live together, is what I'm saying. I wish
Yeah.
we do. In the ether, I hear that all the time, that now that we're a global conglomerate, of almost 2,500 people worldwide now, we're living together all the time. We all feel it. And welcome to all of those who are continuing to just join this critical mass that we're sharing, this home that we have developed together. So appreciate that. Well, Cher, I can't thank you enough. Obviously, I would love for you to become as involved in CASY as you possibly can. So let's talk about that at some point after you've probably recovered. You're probably going to need to go lay down in the dark or something. Um, but yeah, I love you all. Look to our events under our events tab on our social media platforms to see the sessions coming up. They're all spectacular in their own way. And this one I wish I could bottle and pour over the thirsty world. Thank you so very much.